All right, it's time for our discussion on Opinion Court. You can get in touch with us 22422. That's our SMS line. If you're online, please use the hashtag Opinion Court, whichever platform you're using, Twitter or Facebook. You could tag us as well at Citizen TV Kenya, at Citizen TV News, and I am at Ann Kiguta. We are discussing whether Parliament is in fact committed to the implementation of the two-third gender principle, which basically states that not more than two-thirds of the same gender should occupy public office. I'll reintroduce my panel to you. We have Majority Whip in the Senate, Beatrice Elachi. Next to me in the middle is Edward Kisiangani, our resident political analyst. Next to him is W.Lichuma, the chair of the National Gender and Equality Commission. And across from me is Kibra MP Ken Okoth of the Green Amendment campaign that's looking to collect 1 million signatures to push for the amendment of the Constitution through popular initiative, going to a referendum instead of going through Parliament, really bringing to you, the people. So I'll start with you, Winnie. Why is it taking so long to reach consensus on these laws on a matter that Kenyans already decided on when they voted for this Constitution?
And the two-third gender rule is a very simple rule. Very, very simple indeed. All that the Constitution says is elect men and women, but in every public or private institution, at least a third of either gender. And of course, you know, this comes in because in a long, long time, politically, Kenyans have not been very kind to voting women. From the time of independence to date, I think the highest number of women we had in Parliament was only elected, has never gone beyond 10. Now, the Constitution introduces the affirmative action. It talks about the not more than two-thirds, the principles of equality. So one would have expected it's very simple, that you just count the numbers, 1, 2, 3. You don't get the women. You then nominate them the way we did in the county assemblies, and you have your house that complies with the law. But I'm happy I have a member of Parliament here, and Senator, can they tell us? Because clearly my work was done. The technical working group which I chaired did get views from Kenyans for 1 year. We then had recommendations which were reduced into a bill, and this bill by May last year was filed in the House by none other than Honorable Duale. It has never seen light of day. But every day new things keep coming in. The women parliamentarians came in with another bill in December. Mheshimiwa here is busy all over the country confusing Kenyans with the amendment, green amendment. I don't know. I don't sit in Parliament. So I am equally confused as you are.
Okay. Senator, what's the problem? The Jubilee coalition has the requisite numbers in both houses to push through anything they want. If they really wanted women to have a fair shot, this would have been done like yesterday.
Well, I would say this is not now about Jubilee or court. This is now politics where we have both men and women fighting for this space. And I think that's where now the problem comes in. That, yes, we had agreed, we've been in the campaign, and I want to thank the chair. She has chaired us for the last 2 years now on the same agenda. We wished the Duale Bill number 1 would have been now on the floor of the House, maybe on the Committee of the Whole, just about to end. But because of the politics, and I would say, and I would challenge my president today, that if he is really the leader of the political party of Jubilee, then I would wish he can stand in through his members, and we must pass this bill. Because one, you remember we were in court, the Supreme Court gave us a go-ahead to follow up and ensure we have a formula. And what really amazes me is the way when you sit with our male colleagues, they will support the agenda outside, but when it comes to the floor of the House, I know we'll have different views. We also have different views from the women. Exactly. It's important to tell Kenyans that everyone is there now to secure what is theirs. And therefore, when you come on the floor of the House, you find also women who are not willing to support. They will not come to the House. They will decide to go and do other things. So these are some of the challenges, and therefore, for me, Jubilee has the numbers. It is the party leader. is the president who has to come in and rein on his members and give the country the 2/3 agenda.
Wow. No show of confidence in your own party leader.
Well, on that one, no. I'll be honest.
Wow.
Yeah?
I don't think we've ever had such an admission on this show.
I'll be honest.
All right. Okay. It's bold to say that, and thank you for being frank. Ken, what's the challenge, and are you, as Winnie is saying, confusing Kenyans with your Green Amendment? Why not just support what is already in the House?
On the floor of the House, yeah.
First of all, because I have an independent brain, I can think for myself. Number two, that's clear. The people of Kibra elected me to think and do what I believe is the right thing. Number two is that every Kenyan needs to understand that our Constitution has the 3 amendment clauses. You can amend the Constitution using Clause 255, Article 255. You can amend the Constitution using Article 256, which is through Parliament. Article 255 is issues that must go to a referendum. And Article 257 is an amendment of the Constitution by popular initiative. You can collect signatures. You go to the county assembly, like we've done with Okoa, Kenya. Things that you can't get through Parliament. So I think I'll just say that I don't oppose the women's agenda. The women know my vote is automatically for them. I was raised by women in Kibra. I was voted for by women in Kibra. I want women in leadership. So all I am just saying is that I'll go down in history with the members of the Green Amendment for having tried to do something. We will collect those signatures. It's not easy. And then it's an automatic process. The women are being played by relying on Article 256, which is telling you you'll get it through Parliament. What they're not telling you is that the Duale bill, which is a technical working group bill they had, in terms of process, I'm not even arguing content. My spirit is there. Women must come to Parliament. My question is the procedures through which you will score and achieve that. And it's not a favor, it's a right women must get in this country. They must demand and fight for it. If you wait for the men in Parliament, you're not going to get it. That I can tell you for sure. If you wait for the president, who for 3 years has acted as though this is not a priority, you're not going to get it. So all I'm saying is, women of goodwill in this country, give your signatures. It costs you nothing. Let us take this to the county assemblies. Let us come up with a solution. We can take even the technical working group thing to the county assemblies. Get the signatures. Let Kenyans' voices be heard on it, and we'll have it done.
Senator, how will you then, in good conscience, support and campaign and lobby for President Uhuru Kenyatta when it comes to delivering for women, now that you have already blatantly stated that he has not shown commitment towards, implementation of this rule? Is not whipping up the membership of his party.
In terms of the commitment,
a little bit, the president did launch our campaign. Tubadili tusitawi pamoja in August, and if you had that clip and you listen to His Excellency, he says, Kenyans, come join me. Let us give women their space. So at least for me, in that direction, he has tried. He doesn't sit in Parliament. He doesn't. I
think the argument that Senator is making is that he can, as party, really bona fide party leader, he can whip up the sentiment of members and say, look, this one is not negotiable. You pass it, full stop.
Yeah,
they
just
did,
the way he do
I tell you that.
And that's why I'm pleading with him. I know he can do it. He can rein on his members, just the way we've done on other bills, and tell them this. We are not negotiating before we go for the elections of 2017. I want to see this bill passed, and I assent on it. Period. He has been there. He is the main campaigner of the whole process, and therefore, if you realize you have your own children inside who are not listening to the words you have said, then there's a different way of doing it, and that's all I'm trying to plead with him. Whip our members. Let us pass this bill.
I'm shocked that my sister Beatrice, my 2 sisters, of course you're not speaking with on the same plane, but my sister Beatrice is blaming the president.
I'm not blaming the president
or the party leader on a matter which is purely legislative. This matter about women and even representation, the 2/3 rule, and under Article 27 of the Constitution, the article advises that there should be legislation on how we can negotiate the framework for making sure there is this gender parity. So the work of legislation under the Constitution is the work of Parliament. And Parliament also should recognize that across the board, up to where we are now, 15% of the gender representation in Parliament against women is that women are only 15%. Compare that with Rwanda, which is 52%.
No, Rwanda is 64.
I think it has moved to 64.
Kenya is 19.7.
It has now improved.
Yes, improved.
And then, you know, we are so low. I think in the East African region we are the lowest.
We're the lowest.
We are the lowest.
Yeah.
Now, and if you look at those percentages, they are not very encouraging. Now, we might disagree on the methodology. I don't think I will encourage women to say we want affirmative action where we just sit there and the men legislate on how they can put us through. Women must make tangible and concrete recommendations on how they want to go about it. And once they do that, we must record this in our mind, that the implementation of the Constitution is not negotiable. Under the Constitution, and one of the things, if you read Article 27, Article 27 is the Bill of Rights. It's part of the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. And the Bill of Rights, you cannot change anything in that Bill of Rights without a referendum. So those who are supposed to legislate to implement the Constitution on gender parity, and especially as it touches on the Bill of Rights, should stop wasting our time. They should do the legislation, or we declare them unconstitutional. Because if you don't implement the Constitution, don't come and give us reasons on whether you are going to do it. There are no options. There is just one. Right. You must implement. So the implementation of the Constitution must be done. But if it is not done, we can say the way Parliament is constituted now, it cannot carry out the business of the Kenyan people with this gender imbalance.
Fair enough, but I want to follow up on what you said, which is basically it should be the business of women because they are the key stakeholders in this piece of legislation, to really champion that cause. And yet we haven't heard such a concerted or a strong, women's movement voice around this, be it from the relevant women parliamentary bodies or other associations. Winnie, what happened to the women's movement in this country? Is it dead? Are women to blame for the state in which we are right now?
Anna, I'll tell you the truth. It's all patriarchy, in my view, because women are totally divided in the middle. Mheshimiwa here has taken off with a team.
With some women in the Green Amendment. But what I keep asking him, I like it. In the County Assembly, Mheshimiwa, we go to the 2/3 gender rule. The formula is very clear. It has no problem. Why do you want to open it up with the Green Amendment? Because where we had issues is in the National Assembly and in the Senate. So why would we want to take a referendum and we want to open up the whole issue to areas that have no problem? And so what he did, he's my good friend, with the Green Amendment, he has taken off with part of the civil society. In the Green Amendment. Then the women in Parliament, as my sister has said, they are not speaking with one voice. So the problem, and what we are being told is, the problem, the biggest obstacle, and for me, I always ask this question, is the problem of women in this country men? Because because the blame game always goes to, they say men are blocking us. If you look at my
Ken Okoth is stealing some of the women.
Yes. He has told someone no. And Ken Okoth is doing something about the women's issue, but there are women who just sit there and then they will say men are doing something wrong. Let me just be a little funny. When a guy doesn't show up,
where?
In the morning, in the evening, at night.
In the house.
In the house.
Oh dear.
You see, you must know, the woman will say, you are a very bad person. But then there's a woman who is keeping that guy before he comes home. But the blame will always be on the man.
Come on, Prof.
I don't know that we're talking about this.
I'm just saying,
give that as an example now.
The reason why I'm giving that example is this, that you are blaming men on literally everything. Even when the women get a cold, they say it is the men who are causing it. So what I will pick you up from what you said. What women should do, they should force their agenda. The world is a stage. Shakespeare said, you must. Nobody's going to invite you on the stage to dance. Once you realize that the stage is crowded, you dance with your elbows, you know, extended, so that the other people become extended, and then you push them out of the stage. So I'm suggesting that whatever you have discussed, you are the boss. And the many other women, they can differ on very many small things, but on this one, which has been given by the Constitution, they must speak with one voice. And let us see the men now who will block that. But once you have Ken Okoth quickly running away with others, and you know, when you say Ken Okoth has run away with some women, you are looking at women as brainless.
No, we're just saying that the facts.
Yeah.
The women are brain.
Taken away.
But you know,
can I speak for myself?
First of all, the movement has been together on this agenda. And I think what happened after they finished, they knew now it is time for Parliament. So let us not blame Parliament. Let us not blame the women's movement. They have done their best. She's been there. We've done even signatures. We did a lot of lobbying and advocacy on this issue. For me, the agenda now is in Parliament. And in Parliament, now these are politicians. While Ken Okoth will decide the Green Movement, which I don't know will take up to 2018, is when we achieve this agenda. And that's why we've always told him, join us on this other agenda. Let us finish what is in the House.
You know you have my vote in Parliament. Just bring the bill.
We know
Cancel the chip. You're being dishonest because you have my vote in the National Assembly. The record has to be put straight. These accusations that men who support Green Amendment will not vote for these other things in Parliament is not true. But I support your bill. Use Formula 177. Yes. Tell Duale, Chepkonga, Uhuru Kenyatta, bring the bill tomorrow. You have my vote. But you will not get the vote of some of the women. You know why. And you will not get the vote of some of the men. You know why. So let us fix on that. But let us not attack Green Amendment.
And I will lobby more men for more. Let us have one agenda. Because when we have the two agendas, we get also confused. Because everyone is looking at Ken's agenda and they feel this is the right agenda. And yet now the Duale agenda is being left because they are more active in what they are doing while we are waiting for Duale to table the bill for the second reading.
Let me move the conversation forward.
Articulating the women's agenda in Parliament.
Okay.
All of us.
Fair question.
Including Ken Okoth.
Good question. Good question.
This thing is about lobbying.
Yes. Those who believe in the women's agenda do.
Not all of you. You must have a leader.
Well, right now the leader is Duale, who is supposed to be opposing the agenda.
You can't have Duale. But the leader of the women's movement is a man.
On this bill, we have no choice. He's the leader of government. He's the one who tabled the bill. He has to continue with this bill.
Fair enough.
It's his bill.
Allow me to move the conversation forward. You know, whether or not Parliament will pass this legislation, the question is, are we leaving the public behind? You know, because we have had to resort to legislation to do what should typically be possibly even common sense, that we're in a society that's almost, you know, 50-50 split. So you would imagine that you would have leadership automatically spread that way. So have we left the public behind in this discourse? Are they really on board with getting more women in Parliament? How does it make sense for them? And specifically to you, Winnie, because we sat at a forum when it came to women's leadership, and there were women legislators who had no idea what the Duale bill was about, who were requesting to be, you know, schooled on it. And often you will hear in this sort of conversation, so even with the affirmative action that has already taken place, have we really gotten proper representation? Do these people go in the House and actually represent us, or are they joyriders?
No, I think, Anne, what is happening is that we all don't learn the same way. There are those slow learners, and I keep excusing them because for me, in every meeting, I have to keep going back to it. And reason is that we have many bills, and we sometimes confuse them. And that's why I'm saying, I've told Honorable Ken, let's support one bill.
Make it simple.
Make it simple. But he has value in what he's saying, but that cannot be achieved between now and the deadline of August.
But is the public on board?
The public is on board because when the technical working group worked on the bill, we have a whole report where we did consultations. We called for Kenyans to come and give views. We put it in the newspapers. We put it in the radios. We reached out to Kenyans. So as far as I'm concerned, after the Supreme Court ruling, we brought everybody on board in terms of giving their views.
Without this bill going through, do you think Kenyans would still vote for more women come 2017?
No.
What I think is, I want to challenge my sisters, especially those who came in on affirmative action, that if the affirmative action would mean that they need now to go back and sell themselves and get voted in, I'm hoping that in 2017 I would see more women elected in. Yep. But if they haven't really done their bit well, we might end up with again very few women or no women elected. Like in the Senate, we had no woman elected.
You know, Beatrice. I mean, you know, when Beatrice raised the matter of the executive. One of the things that we need to take care of is the fact that let us not confine this gender parity to a legislative matter alone. Because if you look at the Constitution, it talks about legislation and representation in Parliament, but it also talks about other public organs. Now, one of the things that needs to be done, and that is the push you have to put on the executive, is that if you look across in terms of government appointments, and you look at how civil service operates, actually the representation of women in some areas is very low. And it's not because there is no capacity, but there is a deliberate decision, or people close one eye and say, I hope I'm not being seen. So you must insist from the parliamentary perspective that the women representation in the public service, in the companies, private sector, responds and respects the Constitution. Once we have so many of them there, they become agents of change, and they can tell people really it makes sense to have more women in public service. But when you start with the Parliament, when the whole rot is in the public service and nobody's talking about the executive not taking responsibility in that area, you know we have a long way to go.
But Prof, you know those things go through Parliament, maybe they endorse.
Yes, but the Constitution, as you are a lawyer, the Constitution says that you must have gender parity in public offices. So once that is done, you know, even if Parliament has not legislated, the supreme law of the land is the Constitution. Everybody must obey the Constitution by doing that.
I hear you, Prof.
Yes.
But how many cases are we going to file in court over the executive not complying?
No, I think you can lobby.
Because
it's not about...
That's what I'm saying. If we need to say that the representation of women must bring some change, I expected not to see, for example, the National Police Service Commission Act being mutilated on the floor of the House just because we didn't like Kaindi. And the whole principle was voted in the House to be removed. So really, where is the change? In my view, yes, I can advocate, and I do advocate. I have gone to court. I have made the challenges. We've made the appeal. But people must do their role. So like for the parliamentarians, I would have wanted to see all the women elected in the National Assembly saying we are voting no. I didn't see. In fact, what I saw Ken, Honorable Amalwa, being the one saying we cannot miss the gender parity, but not from the women.
Wow.
So clearly, on the cabinet appointment is the same thing.
That's why I keep on saying we need a lot of goodwill. On this issue of women's agenda, this one I will not, and I'm not saying because I cannot defend my president, I've always defended, but on the women's agenda, I will tell the president, I know he can stamp his foot.
I have some solution for you.
Today,
so why can't you go and tell him tomorrow?
I am now telling him today. I am telling him today on national TV, and I'm telling the president,
I have a solution for you.
Or maybe you can do that.
So let's just put it this way. The goodwill issue that Honorable Elachi brings up is very important. When the Jubilee people want to push an agenda, whether it's security bill, they'll find a way to push it. Whether it's calling us to try get out of the ICC, they'll push it. On the issue of goodwill by the president, and I would ask my friend Winnie, do not be misguided by PR. The president can show up and help you to launch an event, but his actions are more important than his promises. That launch was a promise. It has not been delivered. Insist on the delivery of that promise, and we will clap for him and celebrate him and give him awards and dance for him the day that law has been passed and is usable. Before that, he gets zero credit. Before that, he gets zero credit. And I must say it this way. For me, I am ready to support and lobby men in parliament. If you look in our society, we're better off in families that are headed with shared leadership. Men lead and women lead, and our families are stronger. When we come to leadership in the parliament, we need the same. And I want to get away from this notion that the women in the 11th parliament haven't done a good job.
No,
because that's a fantastic job in the Senate. If you come to the National Assembly, you've got people like Honorable Zuleika, young, nominated. She's doing a great job on issues that are important for the people of Kwale. If you think, let me give you an example from the Jubilee side. Honorable Kajuju, she does a great job. She chairs a committee on East African integration. Honorable Priscilla Nyokabi on the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. They have moved important things that matter. So I do not think
that can we agree.
So all I'm saying, and I am arguing that we need more women in leadership, and we already have that in the county assembly, thank God, and we just need to fix it in the National Assembly. And on terms of process, I am saying, if you go into your kitchen, you have a microwave, you might be lucky enough to have a jiko, and you might be lucky enough to have an oven. The microwave is used for doing different things. The jiko for doing different things. The oven for doing different things. That is the same way when we are cooking up legislation. When you need constitutional amendments, Article 255 is for certain things. 256 is for certain things. Clearly, this thing is not evying properly. I think Kiki, it's time to take it to the jiko of a referendum.
I need you all to come
slowly because the referendum.
Because we're running out of time. Yes. So I would allow you to make that comment as your final comment, if you would, please.
What I'm saying is the women in parliament have done quite well. Both the men and the women in the house have not done well on the two-third gender role. And what he's saying about using the jiko and what, I wish he would only deliver it between now and August. Going the referendum way, I think we are cheating ourselves. He will not, we cannot. And I think let's take Duale 1. It's already gone through the first reading, it has matured. Put it, and Ken, I know you will support it.
You have my vote, you have it last year. I've been waiting for that.
Final comments.
If women organize themselves, this parliament would not reach 2017 on this matter. It would be completely dissolved. But now, even if you stay up to 2017, you should consider setting up a lobby group, an organized lobby group, to say you want an election. The agenda for the next general election is about obeying the constitution with regard to gender. And all women regardless of political parties should campaign for only people who support this agenda. So if you get out of your tribal cocoons and political party cocoons and then say, we cannot vote you even if you come from Jubilee or CORD if you don't support this part of the constitution, you'll have it your way.
All right.
Thank you.
Your final view.
I think the president has supported women. You look at his party has more women than any other party.
It's not about numbers.
And I know he has goodwill. I want to plead with him today that give the women the two-thirds agenda. That will be his legacy as he moves on to his second term.
And we wind it up there. I thank all my guests for their views. We're back with more news after this. Stay with Citizen TV.